Hello, hello, welcome to Color and Scribbles. My name is Rachel, and today we are talking about storyboarding. And the reason that we're talking about storyboarding is because I actually worked as a freelance storyboard artist for a variety of commercial video projects, and it's something that I'm interested in continuing to pursue in the future. And it's also something that's very accessible to people at any artistic ability level. So it's very approachable for people who are beginners or people who are more advanced at art. So this is just going to be an intro to storyboarding, what it is, what it's used for, and I'll have a bunch of resources linked in the description below to give you, access to more information if you're at, a more advanced level with this. So with that, let's jump right into this. So, first off, what are storyboards used for? Basically, storyboards are used as a very important planning phase in a film or animation kind of project. And the reason that they're so important is because they are used to figure out a lot of essential details about the filming or animation that you're going to be doing. So rather than just jumping straight from a script into actual production work, you go through what's called a pre-production phase, where you basically figure out how the shots are going to work, you figure out what you're going to need, what kind of locations you're going to visit, or if it's an animation, you figure out, what the animation is going to look like, basically, what kind of views you're going to have, what shots, etc. So storyboards are basically where you figure all of that out. So you take a script and then you start storyboarding things, and storyboards are basically just very quick, rough sketches to kind of nail down all of these things. And they're done very quickly so that you can scrap them and redo them as needed throughout the process. This basically helps the actual production process, animation or film, whatever the project is, it helps that go a lot more quickly and smoothly because you've figured out all of the essential information ahead of time, so you don't have to, sit there on set frantically trying to figure out what's going to work well and, what kind of shot you should use or how close up something should be, because you figured all of that out in pre-production. Of course, things can end up varying and changing once you get on set, but it's good to have a point of reference and a framework to start with. The exact function and nature of the storyboards varies quite a bit from industry to industry and also just from project to project. There's really no hard and fast rule about how storyboards should be done or what function they play in a project. It's really just whatever the individual team needs them to be. For example, you might be more likely to see detailed storyboards for an animation project, something that's a little bit more drawn out with specific poses or specific expressions, because the animators might be referring directly to the storyboards in order to know what to draw. That's not true 100% of the time, but it might be more likely. Or in commercial work, which is what I worked on as a storyboard artist, you'll sometimes see actual photos, or you'll see like 3D models and things like that, and that's because the storyboards are often used as part of the pitch to the client to try to get the job. So the storyboards have to be very clear for a non-artistic eye for the client to see exactly what your vision is of the finished product. So they're often like much more lifelike and detailed for a film type project, or much more nicely drawn out and maybe even colored and polished a little bit for an animation type project. And with like live film, it's all over the place. It could be anything from like stick figures that the director drew to fully rendered comic animation style storyboards. It really just depends on the budget for that. But overall, the priority with storyboards is speed, relative simplicity, and very clear communication of the visual idea at hand. So here are some basic things to keep in mind if you want to start making your own storyboards. If you like visual storytelling, storyboards are a really good place to start. As I mentioned, you don't need a lot of artistic skill for this. You can start with stick figures, or you can challenge yourself for something a little more complicated. But either way, it's a good way to start learning and thinking about visual storytelling. There are two basic things that you need to think about when you're making storyboards, and that is the position and movement of the camera and the position and movement of the subjects within the frame. And the basics of storyboarding is that whenever one of these things changes, that's when you would make a new frame in your boards. Now, you don't have to draw every single little gesture and movement of a character, but if the camera changes position or if the character makes a big movement, that's when you would make a new frame for it. Another couple things to think about are composition and, to some degree, lighting at this stage. These are both things that you can consciously use to very dramatically impact the mood or meaning of your story, so you want to try and make sure that they convey the kind of meaning that you're looking for. You know, for example, should this particular shot be done with like a close-up, or do you want something that's like a wide shot? These both have, and all of the other decisions you make at this point can have a very big impact on the final way that the audience views your scene. I'll include some links below to more information on cinematography, but a good place to start is to try Googling the name of your favorite film or the name of your favorite director with cinematography, so director cinematography. And you can see how these people or these films used the camera movement or on-scene movement effectively, and you can try to learn from them. You can also just do this next time you watch a movie, and like while you're watching it, see what impact the shots have and what impact the particular lighting or composition has on the overall mood and feeling of the film that you're watching. One last thing to keep in mind when you're making your storyboards, it's not as important as the others, but it's still worth keeping in mind, is aspect ratio. You want to think about what format your final video is going to appear in, and you want to then make your storyboards in that same format. The most common aspect ratios are 16:9, 2.39:1, and 4:3. So that's about all that you need to know to start making your first storyboard. Like I said, there's not a ton of hard and fast rules, and most of the stuff that you need to know about it is just basic cinematography stuff, which, like I said, I've linked to some of that in the description below, so check that out, read up a little bit on it, but you know, don't be too worried about that at this point. If you've never storyboarded before, I would just say to jump into it and start playing around and figuring some stuff out on your own. So with that in mind, what should you make for your first storyboard? If you've already got like a script or a story written that you want to try storyboarding, great, hop to it. But if not, don't worry, you don't need your own script to start practicing. One thing that you could try, for example, is to make storyboards for a scene in your favorite book or stage play. Reimagining these kinds of non-visual media for film is a really great challenge for visual storytelling. A second thing that you could do is to try making storyboards for something that happened to you or someone you know in real life, which can give you a really good opportunity to figure out how to dramatize a more ordinary everyday story. And then one other thing is to just take like a normal daily activity and maybe spice it up, maybe not, but you could try looking at it through a new perspective, or maybe a specific genre. That could be fun because then you can try figuring out, you know, what kinds of moods and angles and camera shots and everything work for specific genres. So that can be a fun challenge. Once you've drawn up your boards, you can either lay them out just next to each other in a grid fashion, or if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious and if you have access to some simple video compilation tools, you can compile them into a simple animatic. This is really nice because if you do that, then you can actually get some of the timing elements into the scene as well, so it can give you a better sense of the timing of the shots instead of just what's actually happening in them. So yeah, that's about it for the basics of storyboarding. That's it. You can go out and start storyboarding now. I feel like storyboarding is one of those things that's like kind of intimidating and mysterious to people because it's like under the hood and they don't really see what happens and they think that there's some magic secret to it, but there's not. That's the secret, is that there's no secret. Like, storyboards are just going to be whatever they need to be for your project. They could be detailed, they could be not detailed, they could be photos, they could be stick figures, they could be, you know, anything. But if you're just starting, it's a really good way to learn about cinematography and to practice visual storytelling. So since they're so simple and fast, you can iterate a bunch of different versions. You can try out a bunch of different like camera angles for certain moods and try to figure out what works well for certain genres and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, like I said, I linked to some cinematography information in the description so that you can learn a little bit more about that. And just start paying it, like if this is something that you're interested in, start paying attention to it in your favorite films and try to see what the directors or cinematographers are doing to achieve certain effects. So yeah, I hope that this video was helpful to you. I hope that you learned a little bit about storyboarding and how not scary it is. And I hope that this has inspired you to go off and make some storyboards of your own. And if you do, please share them with me. I would love to see what you come up with. Or if you have done storyboards before or worked as a storyboard artist, tell me about that too. I would love to hear about it. And if you have any suggestions for future video topics that you would like me to talk about, let me know. This video topic was actually a recommendation from somebody. So thank you, Eric, for the recommendation. And yeah, if you have any suggestions, put them below. Or if you have any questions, comments about this video, put those below too, and I will, answer them to the best of my ability. Yeah, thank you as always for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please consider subscribing for more and giving it a thumbs up. And have an awesome week. I will see you next time.